Well, spring is almost here and it's time to go ahead and put the first seeds in the garden. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris, and if you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, deck, or garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and put the first seeds in the ground today. We're a little bit early. This is March 13th, I think it is. But you know, the weather's been pretty nice and it's a good time to go ahead and get in those early season crops. So what I'm going to be planting today are cold season crops that don't do well in the heat of summer. I like to get those in as early as I can. We're not predicting any kind of hard freeze over the next week or two. And it's, you know, we're about 6 weeks from our average last frost date. Well, about 4 weeks from our average last frost date, 6 weeks from the 1st of May. And the 1st of May is when I generally consider there's no more threat of frost or any of those kinds of things. So it's a good time to go ahead and get these in the ground. Now what I'll be planting today, again, early season crops, so that'll be peas and lettuce, basically, is what I'm planting today. And there's a lot of other things that you could plant very early season, but these are the two that are really hardy in the frost. They can handle a little bit of frost. They don't need real warm temperatures to germinate, so it's a good time to go ahead and get them in. And another reason for planting them early like this is because I'll be able to get succession planting in. So I'm going to be planting peas right here, some lettuce, some spinach, and I don't know if I said spinach earlier, and a different variety of peas down on the end. And by the time those are done, I can pull them out and put green beans in here. So I can just follow them up with something else, or cucumbers, or whatever else I wanted to. But that's good. So here's the varieties I'm going to be planting today. These are all snow peas. So they're a long, flat pod. That you eat the whole pod. You don't have to hull them. So the first one is going to be an Oregon sugar pod. These are 28-inch tall plants, so I'm going to be staking them out. I've got these bamboo stakes here. Actually, they're cane, I think, river cane. So I'm just going to be, it's pretty simple. I'm going to be sticking these in the holes here and give them something to climb. So let me push that down in the ground a little bit so it doesn't come out. There we go. And then put a seed in the ground right next to it and let that climb this post. Now if I need to, I'll come back. These are much taller posts than I need, but I'll use them for other things too. And if I need to, I'll come back and I'll tie some strings between the posts and give them something to trellis, but I think they'll climb these poles just fine. I won't need to do that. So it's a pretty simple process. Let me get all set up and I'll bring you in close and we'll take a look at how it's gonna go. All right, I already changed my mind how I'm gonna do this a little bit, because I was gonna put one of these stakes in every hole, let the pea climb that stake, and that would work, but it's a lot of stakes. I've got plenty of them, but good grief, going through and, I mean, it's just a lot of work to go through and stick them in there. So I'm gonna change my mind a little bit. I'm gonna do this a little differently. Peas do need something to climb. They need a trellis of some kind. I could easily put a piece of fencing or something like that in here. But what I'm gonna do is just, I'll put one of these stakes about every 3 feet, and then I'll just run a string between them, and that'll give the peas something to climb up. So that'll work pretty well, and that's a lot easier than putting a stake in every single hole. So I'm gonna start with these, one of these again, Oregon Sugar Pod 2. Not really familiar with them, but never grown these before. We're gonna see how well they work. Planting peas is a pretty simple process. You just stick them in the ground, just barely. They only need to be covered up with just about as deep as the seed is. So I'm gonna put 2 in each hole just to make sure I get good germination. Cover them up a little bit, and that's it. Peas are a legume, so they produce their own nitrogen, so you really don't need to do a lot of fertilizing to these. In fact, it's probably best not to do a lot of fertilizing to these, because there's a good chance that you over-fertilize them and you're going to end up with too much foliage and not enough seed pods. The other thing I'll mention is that, you know, it's supposed to be raining pretty heavy for the next couple of days, so this is a good time to go ahead and get seeds in the ground. Let Mother Nature go ahead and water them for me. And if you're wondering, if you haven't seen this before, this is my ground cover that I use to keep weeds down. So I just go through with a torch and I burn a hole every 6 inches. Peas can be planted closer together than that. I think you need about 3 inches between them, something like that. But when I'm using this ground cover, I like to go 6 inches to give plenty of room. Because if I try to burn a hole every 3 inches, then it's just, I mean, why even put the ground cover down? It's just, it's too close together for keeping the weed suppression back. All right, let me go ahead and get the rest of these sown. It's not going to take me too long. It's a pretty simple process, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what I'm going to be doing next. All right, so the peas are planted. Let me show you how I'm going to do this trellis here. I've already got part of it going right there. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with some baling twine because it's cheap and I've got a bunch of it. And just tie a half hitch here, double half hitch. Let me retie that. In case you don't know what a double half hitch is, it's pretty simple. It's just you go around whatever you're tying it to, go around the rope and tie just kind of a regular knot, and then go around the same way and tie a regular knot in it again. So you've got a double half hitch right there, tighten that up, and you can just slide that down to the post. I need to push that around a little bit more so it's sturdy. I think that'll work. And then I'm gonna run a string out here, measure it off. Let me move the camera so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so this is my second post right here, and this over here is my third post. So I wanna run this string out. I'll give myself maybe a foot past the end there, and then I'm just gonna cut it off right there. I'm going to wrap it around this second post right here. Pull it fairly tight when I do. And then I'll go around my third post right here and I'm going to tie a trucker's hitch in this. That way I can tighten it up whenever I need to. So if you don't know what a trucker's hitch is, let me bring you in close here. I'll show you how to do that. All right, this is a really good knot to know. This will allow me to tighten this up over time if I need to. So basically I'm just going to wrap the string around. I'm going to find a spot right about there, looks like a good spot, and then I'm going to put a half or a slip knot in it like that. Now one thing I will tell you about the slip knot is when you pull on it you don't want it to tighten up. So what I mean by that, if you tie it the wrong way, let's say I tied it this way, bring this end around, put a loop in the knot and tie it. Whenever I go to pull on it, it tightens up around my finger, and you don't want that. So you want to go this way, make a loop, put a loop through it, and pull it tight. And then what I'll do is I'll go around here, slip it through that loop I just tied. Let me tighten that loop up a little bit. There we go. And what I can do is I can pull against that, pull it pretty tight, and then put a half hitch in it with a loop right there. Hopefully you can see this, my finger's not in the way, and pull it back. And that will hold tight, but what I can do is I can just pull on this string right here, untie it, tighten it back up if I need to later on. So this will work well for these peas. When they start growing up, they'll hit this string, and then I'll just put another level up above it and another level up above that, however high I need to go once they start growing. I'll probably tie the other one the other direction so I'm not pulling the same way both times, if that makes sense. Anyway, peas are planted, so let's get on to planting some lettuce. All right, I think the camera's a little crooked, but that's okay, you guys can see. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna be planting is some kind of a romaine type lettuce. This is a Paris Island, is that GOS, COS? I don't know. It's free seed that came from Baker Creek. It is I think it's COS lettuce, Paris Island Cos lettuce. I don't know. Anyway, it's like a romaine type lettuce, not a head lettuce, not like a leaf lettuce. So it's a variety I kind of like. I like romaines. I don't actually know if I've grown this variety of romaine, but I do like romaine lettuce. Now when you're planting lettuce seed, you probably want to do that on a day that's not too windy, because these seeds are tiny. And they will blow all over the place, and then you'll have lettuce everywhere. So I'm just going to pour some out in my hand and try to get, I don't know, 2 or 3 seeds in each one of these things. Lettuce seed you don't want to plant deep at all, so I'm just going to kind of press it in and brush it over just a little bit. You don't want that, like I said, you don't want that to go deep at all. Just sprinkle dirt on top, basically. And I'm planting it right next to my peas, so we'll see how well it does right there. I think it'll do just fine. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Another trick about lettuce well, when I'm planting these things, is I don't cover them all up right away because I want to see what holes I planted in, if that makes sense. If I cover them up, then I come back and try to figure out where to start over again. If I've got more seed, I don't know where it is. So it's kind of tricky to tell sometimes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cover these up. I'll just keep the last one uncovered so I know where I'm going. Again, they don't need much dirt over the top of them. Don't plant them too deep. You will have a hard time getting them to sprout if you do. Just cover them up, that's it. All right. Well, let me get some lettuce planted. Then we'll be back with you to show you what I'm planting next. All right, so I want to show you up close kind of what this lettuce seed is. Hopefully you can see that. That little white seed right there. There's about 3 of them in there. So, and I tell you, you don't want to plant these too deep. I'm just going to push them down just a little bit and brush just a little bit of dirt, and that's it. A lot of times I'll bring just a handful of compost with me and just sprinkle the compost over the top of them, because you really don't want to get lettuce seed too deep. If you do, then you can run into some significant problems with getting them to germinate. They'll rot in the ground before they ever actually germinate. All right, so we're going to move on now to planting some spinach. This is double choice hybrid spinach, burpee seed. These are some old seeds that I had left over from last year. I don't know how much I have. We'll plant as much as I can. But the process is very, very similar. These seeds are a little larger, a little easier to handle. Hang on, let me get some seeds out here. I'll show you kind of what they look like. All right, so that's what a spinach seed looks like. They're a little bigger, a little easier to handle. Let me get these covered up so I know where they are. And then I got 2 there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put 2 in each hole. Hopefully I get good germination off that. Let me put a couple in so I know where I started, and then I'll just work my way across until I run out of seed. I don't know how much I'll get in here, but what I usually do is I don't know if you can see this or not, if I'm still on camera. Yeah, I think I am. So what I usually do is put, like I said, 2 seeds in each hole, and then I'll come back and cover up the one before. And that gives me an idea, so whenever I'm going back, I'll know I've still got seed in that hole. I don't double seed it. So sometimes I do it the other way around, cover the seeds up, and then put seeds in the next hole. All right, so I made some pretty good progress. Got peas down on the end, followed by some romaine lettuce, followed by some spinach. And now I'm going to be planting another variety of pea. These are a sugar daddy pea. These are also a snow pea, I think. They look like a snow pea anyway, does it say? Yeah, it says the first truly stringless potted pea. We're going to find out. Actually, I think they may be a snap pea, but that's okay. We're going to try it. This is another variety I've never grown before. At least I don't think I have. I've grown some peas before, but I can't remember what variety they were. So we're going to try these. One thing I will say about peas, as I'm getting these all planted, I'm going to do these the same way I did the others, so you don't need to watch me do this all necessarily, but one thing I will say about peas, I think I already said this, they need a trellis to climb. They do much better in cooler weather than they do in the heat of summer. That's why I'm planting them so early. But they also don't transplant well. At least that's been my experience. You're much better off planting them direct sow as opposed to starting them indoors and then trying to transplant them out. My experience has been that when you transplant them out, they'll still grow, but they do suffer from some shock, transplant shock, and therefore you don't get your full potential out of them when you try to transplant them. So let me get a couple of these in the ground. Where did that other one go? There it is. And then we'll come back with a few other tips. Peas planted. Now I just need to get my trellis going here. Go get my baling twine, tie it up just like I did the other one. You guys don't need to watch that part. I'll be right back with you. Well, it's not much to look at yet, but you know, got some peas in here, again, the spinach and the lettuce in between, and then another variety of pea down there. It is still a little bit early, but the peas should be fine. They're pretty hardy. A lot of times they'll just stay in the ground until they're ready to sprout. We've got a little bit of rain coming in, and like I said, no hard freezes expected, so I'm expecting these to germinate probably within the next week and start growing there, and they should do just fine. Same thing for really the spinach and the lettuce. Those are all cold season crops. They do really well in the cool weather, so I always like to plant them before my last frost, because I can't really plant things like the tomatoes, the peppers, and all those heat-loving plants. Can't really get those in the garden until around here. Our last frost date, our average is April 15th, but I like to wait until second week of May just to be sure. It's still a little chilly out usually for those plants before then. So this is a good way to get an early start on my growing season. Most of these plants, spinach, lettuce, and peas especially, don't do well in heat of summer. So if I wait very long, then I'm running into multiple issues. One is it starts getting hot, so the plants start wanting to bolt, not doing well. The other issue is that there's other things I want to plant in here, so I'm going to get succession planting. These are going to be done by the time it's time for green beans and those kinds of things to go in. They'll be done. I'll already have harvested them, and I'll be able to pull them out of the ground. These are about 60 days to maturity, the peas. So that puts me in, let's see, we're in March, so April, mid-May, roughly. So that's good timing. And let's see, the spinach and the lettuce is usually like 40 days, 45 days, something like that. So I'd have to look back at it to, really see for sure. So that puts me into like, just middle of April, late April, whenever that stuff's coming up and ready to harvest. So it's a good thing to do. I could also get some radishes in. I'll probably go ahead and plant those next weekend, and it's a good time to start planting potatoes. Around here we always plant potatoes around St. Patrick's Day, so probably next weekend I'll be planting some potatoes. I think I'm going to do those in raised beds this year. We're going to see how well they do in those. So anyway, I guess that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, God bless.